for that sweet sound.
And we are live from the well. MNL Podcast. I'm Brian Piercy along with Troy Otto. How are you doing today?
Happy to be back.
Fabulous. Unfortunately, our other co-host, Andrew Hedis, was not available to make it, but we found a great substitute. Nordique's GM, Mr. Jeremy Drager. How you doing?
Pretty good. I'm really excited to try and do my best Hedis impression throughout the night.
Oh, God. So you're telling me you're going to lean back in your chair, be quiet, and not say a lot?
Yeah, sounds good, bro.
Perfect. So, quick things right now. Remember, you can leave us a voicemail, 714-75-WHOOP. Send us an email at podcast@mnlhl.com. Big thing here, if you have a Twitch account, follow us. We're trying to get to those 50 subscribers or followers so we can start taking donations. And then if you have Amazon Prime, try to give us your subscription. I know, people like me, not very hip on something like a Twitch. I don't know what it is, but I have Amazon Prime, so I can press a button every 30 days.
Let's be frank, we're preying on all the old guys in the league who don't know what Twitch is and having it so they are the ones who are giving us those random $5 they're not even aware is in their account every month. So we kind of want to just get a little money back to the league that way.
I'm sure you're a lawyer. I'm sure your wife likes to buy stuff off Amazon. Troy, I'm sure you have Amazon Prime.
I do. I guess I'm unfamiliar with this. Like, do I have $5 to spend and I can just give it to Monday Night Lights? It's like a use it or lose it, or how does it work?
That's pretty much it. For the most part, everybody in the league's been giving theirs to Dave P. Even Dave P admits that that's not as good as giving it to MNL. So everyone's going to eventually start just pouring it into us now.
I think we can put together a little how-to instructional video, and then I'll do it. And I think some other old guys like myself that aren't as hip can figure it out.
Yeah. Once every 30 days, you get to have a new $5 donation to anybody you want. Give it to MNL. Maybe we can lower cost a little bit.
Sounds like a plan.
A couple other reminders. We are now available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. There's also an RSS feed. We have a YouTube account. Obviously, we're on Twitch right now. So, subscribe to us, listen to it, and hopefully you enjoy. So, first couple things on the agenda is, like I said, we do have a phone number, and we did get a couple voicemails. The first two I'm going to play, maybe we'll just do them back-to-back. They were actually from our former MNL brother, Chad Polinsky. Looked like he left some voicemails during our last show, so let's go to those, and let's see what he had to say.
And similar to last episode, this is the first time that we're hearing this, so hopefully this is not quite as creepy as Sam Mackey's, but let's go.
So for the record, I did screen these, and I think they're a lot of it more appropriate than before, so let's hear what he has to say.
On the air? Hello? Am I on the air? I just want to give a shout out to MNL. It's ridiculous. I think, Jay Ricey is the second best beauty in the league besides Troy Otto in net. You heard it first. He's the best MNL goalie in history. Change my mind. Beauties out there. Way to go.
Beautiful. And then also during the show, he left this beauty as well.
Hey, this is Shin Chong. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I just had to call in and say I saw it all. Piercy gooned right, left his feet behind the net. He could have killed him. Rightsy faking, that's ridiculous. Cleanest player in the league, bar none. Go Deeks.
A couple thoughts here. I'll ask the questions is, one, that second email, is it racist? And two, his accent wasn't very good, and it kind of morphed out of the accent along the way.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of, Asian on Asian cannot be racist, so anytime you like ting ting tong, it's always just automatically funny. But
that was racist.
But I agree I'm a white guy, so that's racist. But anyways, I agree that for being an Asian, Chad had a terrible Asian impersonation.
I'm going to say that either that's a really good character by Chad, because I don't believe him that he actually likes the Deeks. No Chad Polinsky of mine will ever say go Deeks. Or, he's just putting on a really good character, and he's just trying to be a guy who has a bad Asian accent. I don't really know.
the first voicemail too, I didn't pick up the first. I mean, obviously I was zoned in on the Troy Otto great goalie portion, but the first part of it I didn't catch.
Something about Piercy being a goon?
No. That was
I believe
the
that
second
was number
voicemail.
2.
No, first voicemail there was like a Jay Ricey, best in the league or something.
I think he was talking about Justin being, top player, improving a lot. We did a lot of he was leaving voicemails when we were probably talking about him. Am I a goon? No. I mean, I'm about equal rights. If someone goes in the corner with me, I'm going to be as unskilled with, Trent as I'm going to be with Justin. I am what I am. We all have to be careful. If you put yourself in bad situations, unfortunately, things are going to happen. Hopefully they won't, and that counts for me too. I don't want to get hurt. No one does. We kind of covered this last week, though.
I think Piercy gets an exemption here. Free pass. He's so fucking strong now because of his weightlifting. He doesn't even really know his own strength. So, 2 years ago, he does that nudge. Right doesn't even
Don't
move.
roll your eyes at me.
But now he's just this big badass. So if you go in the corner, he's going to fuck you up.
I'm going to just let the cat out of the bag that this whole podcast thing was a big ruse. We now have both the league commissioners in the room. This is actually the disciplinary hearing for Piercy right now. We're going to actually put him on trial for fucking up Wright, and we're going to stick his feet to the fire. So I still stand with Wright. He's a most improved bender in my eyes. Had a great spring playoffs before he got unserendipitously taken out.
Probably the reason the Franks didn't pull it out, but, what can I do?
Hey, everybody likes Justin. Everybody has seen the improvement in him. Unfortunately, things happen. Ben took one off the collarbone. He was hurt. I think we kind of covered a lot of this already.
Cone's a goon, too. Don't get me started on that kid.
Well, he's King Goon, so I think we're all in agreement there. So we did have another voicemail, though.
I haven't heard this one either.
I guess you technically didn't hear it. Maybe you said it. I don't know. I mean, it sounded like it was one of the Autos. I believe it was Uncle Romeo Otto. I'm sure he's a long-lost uncle or cousin or whoever, but let's have a quick listen real quick. Oops, I got to hit something else, and...
Yo. This is Romeo from Hazel Park. Long-time listener, first-time caller. What's the deal with Chad? It seems like he really likes the league, follows the podcast, always on Slack, in and out of Slack. So why is he leaving? Do you think he'll come back? What's up with Chad? Bye-bye.
Well, God, I didn't realize that all these voicemails were going to be all about Chad, so I don't know if there's such thing as too much Chad. We're going to test that theory out tonight.
Was Chad really talking about Chad, though?
I don't know. It's all about Chad, but since Uncle Romeo brought it up, I mean, I don't know who the guy is, but I do have my theory on Chad. He's really been a puzzler for me. As everybody knows, I drafted him on the North Stars 2 times. I liked Chad. Ty liked Chad. Everybody liked Chad, except Chad didn't like Chad. So always sad in the locker room and moping after losses. And, I thought I was doing him a favor when I traded him to the Whalers the first go-around. Then kind of learned that he was kind of mopey Chad even on the Whalers. And even though I'm not happy that Chad's sad, it made me feel... Whoa, that could be Chad chiming in. Anyways, it kind of made me feel better that, hey, maybe Chad doesn't hate me. Maybe he's just always sad, which is sad. But in any event, I do have a hope that somehow, some way, Chad will just admit that he loves MNL, like we all do, and just happily embrace the league and not make it a year-to-year drama. Like, is Chad coming back? Is Chad not coming back? It's like, we all love you, Chad. Just admit that you love the league and be a part of it, and we hope to see you in the fall.
Chad is the definition of the old adage, if you love them, set them free. If it's meant to be, they will come back. Just let him do his thing, and let him go out on his voyage, his journey. Maybe one day he'll come back to us and admit that truly deep down he did love us. As Chad's least and most favorite person, I can tell you, it's not the league that he hates, it's the sport of hockey is what he's hating right now. I think he's sitting here. He's probably watching right now today, and I think he's just enjoying some MNL right now.
And you know what? Let's face facts too. Chad's a good guy. 2, Chad lives in Ann Arbor. I mean, if we had a hockey league in Ann Arbor, would I want to drive back and forth every Monday? No. I mean, I can see where he's coming from.
I totally understand that. If the reason that Chad was not in the league was, hey, it's just too far, I totally understand that. But I sense that even if he lived in Clawson, Michigan, it would kind of be the same in and out routine. Could be wrong on that, but I totally understand the travel. I can't believe that Sam Mackey drives his ass all the way from Ann Arbor to grace us with his presence at Hazel Park. But I'm glad that he does.
I mean, Charles also lives in Ann Arbor as well, but to say he consistently graces us with his presence, I think would be an overstatement. I feel like there's been a lot of misses for the last year from him. You know, he's getting married coming up, just had his bachelor party. You know, he felt like the belle of the party. What I heard in a set of Saga Talk is he had guy after guy coming up to him, being flirty, a little bashful there, playing those games. I heard he had a good time.
Yeah, Charles was a little cocky on Slack today. I think Dave P. mentioned something about his height, and then Maki referenced his, substantial girth down there. I mean, that's kind of unlike Charles to be so braggadocious, if that's the right word, about
braggadocious.
Braggadocious. So that was a little out of character, but now it makes sense. A little Saga Talk confidence.
Mm-hmm. He really pulls him out there.
What happens in Saga Talk stays in Saga Talk.
Or in MNL, apparently it stays there.
Broadcasted across the internet. Why don't we?
There we go.
So, real quick, I want to. Let's see what happens.
Live phone call, first time in podcast history.
Hello?
Chad.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
You're on the podcast.
Ooh, live.
Live.
Live on the podcast. My dreams have come true.
Have you been listening? We've dedicated the last 10 minutes of the show to you.
Yeah, he said he hates it.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just sitting here, not playing hockey, just chilling,
How's the weather in Ann Arbor?
Life is good. It's really nice outside. Nice sunset right now. It's a little orange. Feels good hanging out.
We were all unimpressed with your Asian accent on the voicemail. We expected you to be a little more Asian about it.
First of all, I don't know what you're talking about. I do not talk like Asian accent. I don't think you understand what Asian accent sound like, because not all Asian talk like Asian.
Chad, I just want you to know that this is extremely offensive.
I don't know.
A Polish man coming on and doing an Asian accent on the internet is offensive in 2019.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you talk about. I don't understand the words come out of your mouth.
That's much better.
I like the Rush Hour.
Hold on. So I don't understand how you even thought that was an Asian accent. Like, what are you? I at no point was trying an Asian accent. What? Are you kidding me?
I picked up Jersey out of
there,
that.
So,
come on,
Chad.
Come
when are you
on.
coming back to MNL?
No, so if I'm not playing hockey at all actually right now. It's not a year to year drama.
He was listening.
There's no year to year drama. Like, I don't know. The caller had it right, I think. Can we go back to the caller? I think the caller had it right, the first caller, where Troy Otto is actually the biggest beauty in the league. He needs to play goalie again. I hear there's a goalie problem, right? Is that true?
No, goalie issue has been solved.
Don't
jump ahead to the podcast.
You're in net?
Send him back to the cage.
Tune in another 10 minutes.
All right, fine. We'll jump. We won't jump there yet, but we'll go back to the second caller. I think the second caller had it right too. I mean, Pierce needs to be on trial here. There's at least a game suspension for that. Are you kidding me?
Well, from what I was told, because I followed us on Twitch, I got a bye. So, I use my card.
Yeah, it's a get out of jail free card.
So we'll see what happens next time.
That's embarrassing for the league commissioning. The league commissioning has gone soft, and usually we'd throw these people out. They'd get suspensions or anything like that. Are you kidding me? Come on, what are you guys doing over there?
Do you have anything else for the call, Chad?
No. I mean, that's about it. I don't know what the fuss or the drama is. I mean, there's no year to year drama of me being in. It's always like, man, I don't want to make this drive. Man, maybe I should think about taking a break from hockey. And all these people are like, hey, you should play. Hey, you should play. Hey, you should play. And it's like, man, you know, where's the drama there? And there's no drama for me. You know, the drama
now that
comes
I've seen the Piercy digs, you know, up close and personal, there's definitely a guest room for you. So Monday night sleepovers, Piercy and Chad. I mean, come on.
No comment.
From either side.
Is that a serious suggestion over here? I mean, come on.
I'm sure in the auto mansion you would have a room or a closet that's probably bigger than my spare bedroom. So
no joke. Back in
how
college,
how big is that?
We talked quite a bit about having Chad stay at one of our subleases that we had and literally sleep in the basement in one of like the extra spare back closets by the fucking furnace. So that almost happened at one point. He's not afraid of doing something like that.
I'm sleeping at Auto Mansion. How big is my room compared to like the Auto Trophy Case room? I mean, it's got to be like comparable, right?
They'd have to win something to actually have a trophy case.
Yeah, the bathroom's about 6 by 10.
Hey, what about season 1? Huh?
Oh well, that's Todd.
I think an Auto won.
That's
I think
Todd.
an Auto
that
won
doesn't
that
count.
one. Oh man, you got to specify better in the Auto Mansion. Come on.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you, Chad. We got to move on. We only have 10 more minutes. People told me to say that a bunch this time.
You helped make history. You're our first live phone call. I think it actually might have sounded okay. So
Probably sounds better than my mic.
You're slowly improving.
There we go.
But thanks for picking up the line, and we'll talk to you later, Chad.
Konnichiwa.
Thanks. Go North Stars.
Oh, man.
Last thing I expected.
Oh, he's just pulling at your heartstrings right now, isn't he?
Yeah, so when we're talking about drama for Chad leaving the league, it's not about Chad. It's about how much the league wants Chad. It's how much he does things like this to Troy, who just like, oh, I traded him last year, but I'd take him back in my heart any day of the year.
I will say this will be a test because this was a large portion of time dedicated to Chad. So if we have any listeners left, it means that you can never have too much Chad. We'll find out.
So, moving on, we did receive an email as well. This one was from Sam Mackey. This one is safe, luckily. So, Sam wrote, everyone should check out Season 6, Episode 8 of The Simpsons, Lisa on the Ice. It's the best hockey episode of any 1990 sitcom and has nothing to do with John Benet Ramsey. So, I think there's that Disney service coming out soon that is going to have all The Simpsons. I think maybe on the FX app you could see it. If you're bored, check it out. I think everybody loves The Simpsons.
If it's Season 6 for The Simpsons, that's got to be 94 probably. Was that even before John Benet Ramsey happened? So there's no chance it could have been in there regardless, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So moving on to news and rumors. MNL Draft, July 15th. Commissioner Panny. More details?
Yeah, so the draft is coming up. We got 7 teams now this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. One of the things that we're doing different this year compared to years past is we're going to be live streaming the draft. We're going to have a handful of people contributing to that, including our entire production team who worked on the broadcast last time. For our announcers, that we're going to be working with our draft analysts Brian Piercy, Paul Bellitti, and Chad Polinsky, with our field reporter Samantha Downfrio out on the floor interviewing players as they come off the board.
Field reporter, we're sounding big time now.
We're doing our best.
Do we have that technically worked out yet?
No. And let's be honest, Tim's wife, she agreed to do it drunkenly one night, and everything that he's told me is that is not something she's actually going to do, but, putting, words through the microphone, makes it a little bit more official.
I think an Aaron Andrews type presence can only increase viewership, and whether it's Mrs. D'Onofrio or another lucky young lady, it's something we should pursue.
Yeah, so I'd say, Sammy Bear, she got first pick in my eyes because she's the person who seems to have the talent for the job, as well as at least some passing interest about 2 months ago. But if you'd like to be her understudy, any beautiful ladies out there who are watching out there in the land, feel free to reach out to us, and we will put together an audition for you.
Okay, next thing. Dickie Dunn. Where is round 7? As I assume the ghost poster for Mr. Dickie Dunn. Any idea what's going on there?
Oh, no, I'm no longer the ghost poster for Dickie Dunn. I somehow got him logged in. His assistant, Paul Bellitti, I gave him the password over the phone, and now he's actually able to log in for himself. So I think 7 just got skipped. When you get to the juicy bits of round 8, round 7 just kind of disappears.
Isn't this a little bit? Isn't there a movie? John Malkovich lives on the 13th and a half floor or something like that. So it's like we had the 6th and the 8th, and the 7th is just kind of in the Bermuda Triangle. Isn't that what's going on?
Possibly. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, looking at that 8th round, I'm somewhere in that range, probably 7 to 9. So, I'm squirreling a little bit. He's been a little bit slower. I know Dickie's a busy man, but, I want to see where Dickie thinks I am.
Dickie's just doing the real life thing. What happens every single year at the draft is things hum smoothly. We get to the 8th round, and then that's when the Whalers go into 10 minutes a pick. Slow everything down for everyone else. He's just trying to do real time for the rest of us and saying, like, hey, this is the part we're going to be waiting on July 15th. Please tune in. And he's just trying to bring, reality to fiction.
I think I found Mrs. Turtle's understudy. I think we had a volunteer, it looks like. Mr. Charles Mackey.
Oh, Jesus.
That's why we said we'd go to an audition first.
Yeah, let's face facts. He's offering to wear pinstripes, it looks like, but pinstripes only make you look so slim.
Ouch.
Health and wellness.
Health and wellness.
Speaking of health and wellness, so there's been some rumors out there about the GM of the Seals, Mr. Whoop. Apparently, his health and wellness is so dedicated right now with his lack of food and his burning up the gym that he's having trouble comprehending trade offers. Apparently, he was offered a 3-per-3 draft pick deal, and his response was, I don't get it. I don't comprehend. Mr. Troy, what's going on with your brother right now?
Well, he's not the smartest guy. He's always been the dumbest Otto. Book smart, street smart. He's all limited brain activity is exclusively into DraftKings, so it's tough. So, 1 for 1 he can handle, maybe 2 for 2. You get to 3 for 3, it's like complex algebra, and he just can't get it. So hopefully Shawnee will be able to handle that and, kind of break it down for Whoop and then go from there.
At one point, I did bring a 3-way trade potentially his way, and the look on his face was excitement mixed with like some really, really strange confusion. But Shawnee did that thing where he goes, ooh. So at least I know he's following along, and I think he's going to be able to help explain and guide him through the process. In the case of Shawnee, at one point, I believe the Seals were called a Mickey Mouse organization in the executive office, and it was Shawnee who chimed in and was able to clear the air. So for a guy who's generally considered a backseat GM, I think he's doing a really good job of trying to drag along his co-GM.
Shawnee, Rattler, these guys are serial lurkers. They're always following. You think they're gone, and then all of a sudden they just, boom, pop in. Kind of like Kaiser Soze, gone.
And we already have the Mickey Mouse organization. Obviously, it's the Mighty Ducks. I mean, Disney owned them. They named them after a movie.
Sugar's on their team. Sugar's wife's a huge. Spoiler alert for the draft. He's going to end up being on their team. Ben is wrong. But Sugar's wife is a huge Disney fan.
Yes, there are many awkward photos of Sean as a grown man with bunny ears or Mickey Mouse ears on his head in Disneyland. It's very hard for me to watch.
Well,
he also
I guess
sounds
it's
like
better
Mickey
than
Mouse.
him going through the Disney princess makeup stuff.
Everyone has a phase.
Yes, they do. Moving on, I know you wanted to mention this. WBW championship game on Friday, Troy.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little shout out to the Worms. The K-Falcons and the Worms are, affiliated loosely with MNL, but their players are probably 75% MNL players, and we don't want to dedicate too much of our time to the podcast, but when one of these teams has made it to a championship, it deserves that they get a little plug. So I think they play the Icemen. Is that possible?
I believe so. Icemen are they're a good team. They've stepped up their skaters the last couple times. People may know Luton, who's subbed multiple times for the Whalers. He's on their team. Probably a second-round caliber talent, I would say. Very good skater. A bunch of those guys, I think it's his friends, have kind of took over that team. It's going to be a tough game, but I think when we have our our full lineup, anything can happen, and I think we can make a run and win that game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just in general, when you get to summer hockey, I think the caliber kind of goes up because, what assholes are still playing hockey in the summer. You got to really love it. So I think the talent on Friday nights and the Wednesdays, from what I've seen, kind of go up a notch in the summer.
Yeah, you usually have a handful of college kids come home too, cause a little bit of troubles for everybody else. I know the Admirals are playing tomorrow at 8:30, and they're celebrating their victory with a big old, or no, not tomorrow, Thursday at 8:30, and they're celebrating with a big old grill fest afterwards. So, summer hockey brings out the best of a lot of the guys. The old guys who do want to stay out, the Paul Wolfs of the world, decide to fire up the grill and have a good time. So,
go Worms!
So you're saying Thursday night free barbecue at about 9:30, 10 o'clock in Rochester?
Fuck.
Be there if you want some food, beer, all free, all on Skillman. Thanks a lot, buddy. Moving on. So we talked about last week we were missing a goalie, trying to try some guys out. We've had one guy come out for the Worms, WBW, and then again on Monday, Dylan. I don't know his last name, but thoughts on that goalie so far?
Yeah, Dave P came through. We'll call him Dave P. Dillon until we figure out his last name. But perfect segue from the Worms because Dillon filled in for Hedis, Claus, whoever in net for WBW, and Dillon came in the semifinals and actually pitched a shutout. And then he came out to the skate last night, and I think everyone kind of universally thinks that he'd be a good fit. He's good, but he's not too good, which I kind of like. Like the thought of getting another awesome goalie is like we already struggle to put the puck in the net, I think, as a league. So I think he's kind of a perfect skill level. He's going to stop the ones that he should, but he can be beaten. He's looks wise. He's a bigger guy. He kind of looks actually kind of like Charles, I think, a little bit. He's got that chest protector. He's just really big in like the chest, but he's way better than Charles. Let's be clear about that. Goes down, seals up everything nicely on the first shot. I think he can be beaten, with some rebounds, but it sounds like he hasn't played a lot. So I think he, easily right now is probably in that like kind of 5, 6, 7 range for the goalie, but with a potential to, move up. And he seems really excited about being a part of the league, which is very important. And, doesn't seem like a guy that we're going to lose to be a sniping forward, but you never know.
Yeah, playing with him on Friday, he said that it was his second time playing in like 8 years, so Monday would have been his third time. Nice guy. He was chatty. He stuck around afterwards, all positives. He was very talkative as well, which I like out of a goalie, letting you know if it's screen, letting you know where guys are, kind of helping you, being that QB back there. Kind of like another guy we know right now, Mr. Troy Otto. He's always a talker back there, but I personally always like it. Let me know if I need to see someone's there, I'm in their way. Let me know. I'll try to correct it and try to, make my goalie happy because you want your goalie happy. You want him in that zone. But, yeah, I thought he looked good. I think he's as far as I'm concerned as of right now, shows up for a few more skates. He's definitely the leader in the pack. I don't know if we have any other options realistically, but even if we did, I think he's at probably near the top or at the top of the list.
Yeah. I just want to point out that Piercy basically just dropped like a happy goalie, happy life type of thing right there. Just, as long as my goalie's happy, I'm fine. But I just kind of want to echo almost everything that Troy said. In terms of Dylan, he's a good, smart player. I'm really excited about what he kind of brought to the ice. Everything everyone said about him being enthusiastic. He's excited about the league. He already follows us on YouTube. Just got to give him some more social media accounts to start following us on everything else. But he mentioned the same thing. It's his fourth skate in 8 years is what he said as of last night. And it didn't look like it. Obviously he's a little bit of a bigger guy. At one point, me and Rule pointed out that he was like, arching over like goalies do when the play's on the other side of the zone, and his back was already up over the crossbar, so that's already 4 feet. He's a big, tall guy, and on top of that, he's got some mass to him as well, and he's still able to move well in spite of it.
It's tough, the 2-hour drop-in for the big guys. I mean, that's hard for skaters, but for goalies, I don't blame him if he's leaning on the goalpost a little bit. Yeah. I will say also, the 2 skates in 8 years, I mean, his pads are pretty nice, and current. So, unless he picked them up, they don't look like 8 years old. So, in any event, he looks the part, and we're happy to have him.
In terms of other, like, contenders for it, like, the way that I view it is we want to get everybody out there. We want to kind of see how they're looking. We know that Antioch has a guy that it wants to kind of bring out and take a look at him. But in terms of like who's getting a spot, the way that I view it is that we have a huge need for goalies in this league constantly. For some reason, goalies think that they're allowed to skate out, and it causes a problem for us constantly. And we should just be doing what Ty says, locking him back into the crease and not letting him out. But we constantly drain away our sub list. We constantly drain away our reserves. And then when goalies leave, we have issues trying to fill them back up. So even if somebody doesn't end up being the candidate this year, we have the expectation that we're going to need at least 2 goalies next year as a potential. So I want to get everybody out. I want to see everybody. I want to get them subbing in throughout the season. I want them to be a part of everything, so we can try and say, "Hey, let's get you fitted up into a nice jersey next season." At the worst.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had Troy, who's essentially abandoned being a goalie. We had Mackey, who turned his back and now is a skater again. Obviously, J. Flo Cone, both pretty good players out there as well.
Offsides Hedis.
Yeah.
Bro, that was one time.
Moving on to the other players, we had another few new guys that we haven't saw. First one was John Eat.
Yeah, so I talked with John Eat last night.
I don't know if that was correct or not.
I don't know if that's 100% correct, but what we've been saying of Eat It is not correct. So I believe it's something along the lines of John Eat. He will correct us. I told him it'll take some time. We still call Sukis. We still call Mackie Maki. So it takes us some time to kind of figure it out, but I told him we'll put in a conscientious effort and try to get better.
And eventually, if you fight it too much, you just might get stuck with whatever we want to call you. So,
or you have Oliveri or Olivier. I don't know. I've called whatever
Olivier.
it was. I called him the wrong name the entire season. Never once did he correct me. And then like week 12, someone's like, his name's actually Oliveri, and I was like, you can say something, but in any event,
some people are shy to talk to their GMs. They understand that chain of command.
So, thoughts on John?
So the way that I viewed it, I skated with John. John was a forward on my team last night. There was a handful of times where it was sort of going up and down the ice, and John's like, a little bit of an older guy. He was able to get up and down the ice pretty quickly and keep going. For a 2-hour skate, he was one of the guys who stayed for a large chunk of the time. He had a lot of endurance. He seemed like he was a pass-first kind of guy. I'd kind of like to see what he kind of does in terms of maybe, have an opportunity to do a little bit of a skills competition, see what he can do when he try to put pucks on net or try to, handle the puck himself a little bit. But he had his looks were deceiving, I'd say. He's, far more athletic than he looks. I put him at a confident, 6th or 7th rounder.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think at Dickie Dunn and the ratings that GMs when they were bringing guys in I think he was put as a 3rd rounder by the Dickie Dunn, 3rd or 4th, one of the two in those drafts. Pretty early, this guy, he's coming out. Here he's possibly, the brawny level, maybe better. To me, he wasn't that range. I think a lot of those new guys we were talking about last week, middle one, we were saying 3rd, 4th kind of rounders. Well, if we add in, 4 or 5 new guys, some of these other guys are going to be moving back or no longer 4-5s. And so it's really hard to say. Like you said, I think I rearranged my draft order today. I think I had him at 39, which is, borderline end of the 6th, start of the 7th. Decent guy. I don't think he's quite as good as a Myers, but he's similar type player. I'm seeing shock and awe there. Troy, why don't you comment?
Well, first of all, before I start, because we're going to be going through lots of players tonight, as many as we get through. I'm not going to be Hedis and just rainbows and unicorns, so I'm going to probably give a little positive about everybody and then maybe a little negative. And, Claus, I think last week I gave Claus 87 compliments, and then I mentioned maybe he wanted one little goal back and he got all sensitive. So just, trying to be honest, these are just my opinions. Someone might have a different opinion. Myself, I can be hard on myself. I'm fat and slow, can't skate. I have some strengths. I have some weaknesses, but anyway, so take these with a grain of salt, not trying to offend anybody, just trying to give some honest analysis. So my opinion on John Eat is closer to, kind of in the same ballpark. I think the brawny comparison is accurate in the sense that age. He can skate. His skating technique is good. He's had some crossovers, got the feet going. I would probably take, Brawny ahead of him, probably because Brawny's a valuable defenseman, Eats, a forward. And I agree with Panny. very unselfish. I don't think he's a sniper, even though he didn't shoot the puck much. Just when he did shoot the puck, I don't think he's going to be going top titties on anybody, but I think he's a nice player. He's definitely above like the lower level and comfortably in the middle. So I think late 5th into the 6th is probably, somewhere where he will go. The Nick Myers, so I have Eden kind of the 5th, 6th round. Nick Myers to me is kind of another little threshold, more in the 7th, 8th round. I also agree with Piercy that Nick Myers had a very nice spring, so he could, he's working his way up draft boards. But I think John Eat is, in a small tier above the Nick Myers.
Nick Myers is just one of those guys that's always given as like a benchmark. Look, I put him around Nick Myers, and because it always felt like he was consistent.
When
for
I
a
was
long
watching
time.
him play, it was like Eat's not too flashy, decent speed, kind of decent in a lot of places, but not great anywhere. I saw some weaknesses a couple areas, like he would play in a wing. He was going into the corners on the defensive area, kind of getting sucked down, things like that. So it was kind of like I was trying to say, like, who's a comp to him? And Myers was the first guy that came to my mind, and I would still slightly, as of seeing, now it's one skate, only see, I would probably go Myers over him just because I think there's a little bit more speed. And even age, I mean, that's got to be a factor. I'm an old man. I get hurt all the time.
Yeah, Nick Myers has talent, and he's he can skate, he can shoot. But I give the edge to Eat. He's kind of got that crafty old man game. You play one-on-one, and he's going to back you down to the little baby hook shot in the backyard. He's just got that old man IQ. I saw him came in, dad strength, all of it. Like, he came in, he did a little drop pass. Like, I think he understands the game. And that's like, if I could control Nick Myers with a joystick, I think Nick Myers could be a 5th or 6th rounder. But some games Nick's great, and then other games it's like, what the fuck, Nick? I can't even play with you. So that's Nick Myers is for me a polarizing guy, and I like Nick, but some games he's great, some games I'm just pulling my hair out.
So I want to comment on my boy Nick Myers before I jump back to John. So Nick, in this case, I think is just too much of a moving target in terms of like he's done a really good job this past like 2-3 months focusing on his health to be able to say like, yeah, I'm going to get better. And I think that's why he's had a really, really good spring. So I think like we'll have to see. As you said, he's a polarizing player. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody took a pull on him in like maybe the 6th, early 7th in the draft. So that'll be really exciting to see. But in terms of John reminds me a lot of the Turnbulls, the Balasias, the Brawnies, these guys who have their kids skating, and these guys who spend a lot of time watching hockey. Best example is somebody like Weaver. Weaver's a guy who's sitting there watching his kid tear it up weekly, all the time, gets a lot of hockey sense from stuff like that, and I think you see that type of stuff get applied to the ice. He, I talked to him last night. He's got a son, Jack, who plays hockey, so he's definitely around the sport enough to kind of have that mental capacity of what's going on with it. Kind of how you're saying, like, if I could control Nick, like, it'd be gangbusters. If I could take John's brain and insert his body, I don't know what would happen.
Next guy on the list would be Mark Pellet. First thing about him.
Oh, don't steal my line, Piercy.
He looks like House.
He looks like us.
Facially, I did see. I didn't really think that in the moment, but when you said that, it makes sense. But even more so than the Adam House comparison, this guy had the best hockey pants I've seen in a while. Kind of that old school Capitals, like I think they were red and they had stars up and down. I thought those were very nice.
Like a dark blue with a light blue with some
very
stars.
Nice.
I like those too.
Very nice pants. On the ice, 7, 8, 9 type round. He can skate a little bit, but he definitely has like, and I compare him to me, you get around the boards, you don't really have the confidence in yourself. So then you kind of do this kind of like snowplow skating, stopping technique. So he's the first alternate, he's not in the draft now, just to make that clear. He's the one, when we had a little snafu with our league calculations, we had Rubel out of the league and blah, blah, blah. So he's the first alternate. So when Chase McCracken says, I'm not fucking playing, or someone gets relocated for a job, it's like I wanted to have Mark evaluated. And Pecora has been whining a little bit about a broken finger. So it'll be interesting to see if he does get in the league, who he fills in for. So, because if like a McCracken goes out, then this P-load is definitely nowhere near a McCracken level, despite McCracken's flaws. But if like a Pecora backs out, then P-load's probably in that range, maybe a little bit better. But I liked his game. He seemed to try real hard, but not a great skater. But so I think somewhere in that kind of probably probably 8th round would be my guess.
Yeah, in terms of Pellet looking like House, when I first opened the door to the locker room, and saw him for the first time, right in the doorway, I thought it was House, and it took me 5 seconds to calculate before Skillen was like, "That's Pellet." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I feel a lot better now because I thought House, one of our recent retirees, decide, "Hey, I'm back in," and then we're gonna have an even worse situation in terms of league calculations. But in terms of his play, I kind of echo. I don't know if I'd go all the way far down to 9. I think 7, 8 is where I'd put him right now. I want to see him skate defense. He was prescribed to play defense last night before Piercy greedily.
He told me he didn't play defense though. That was a thing. On the bench, he seemed like a nice guy. Talked a little bit to him. He was originally going to be playing defense, and then he's like, "Oh, what do you normally play?" I'm like, "Defense." He's like, "I don't play defense. Let's switch it up." So I was like,
absolute opposite thing he told me because I asked him, "Are you forward or D?" He's like, "I can do D." I was like, "All right," so I'll put him at D. In my experience watching him, Rubel kind of expressed frustrations because every single time that he's skating back, he was playing defense next to him, and that could be viewed two ways. A forward being defensively responsible or a forward being a third defenseman. And I kind of want to see him a little bit more to kind of understand. I think he was the person that least amount of eyes were on because everyone was looking at, the Eats. They're looking at Matt Taylor. They're looking at, Andy Femme, even though we've seen him thousands of times. But they're evaluating the players that they know they have to evaluate. And Pellet's just somebody that they need to say, hey, when I have a little extra time, I'll look into him in case of the ripcord situation comes up.
That's kind of where I was going with my evaluation on him. During warmups, I looked at him. I was like, oh. He doesn't look that bad. A couple times just seeing him skate by himself looks fine. But I don't think I could think of a moment out on the ice where I noticed him. He kind of just disappeared out there, which, I don't know. Maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's better than I think. Maybe he's worse than I think. But, I have a hard time rating him there. He's, just that probably later middle round guy where just seeing, the little bit, you can tell he has a little bit of skill. But then again, I didn't feel like he did anything the whole night, so... real quick, we know some of these guys, but we saw some of them skate for a second time. Some of them skate a few more times. Andy Femme last night, he looked good. Lots of speed.
Interesting seeing him next to Shawnee. That was different because he's usually playing next to Pistol, and it's interesting as we see the players that we've seen play one time or with one kind of group of players, like him playing with Pistol. Seeing that get flipped on its head and play with somebody like Shawnee was kind of a pretty eye-opening in terms of how he kind of plays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we all know Andy. I think his draft position is kind of locked in. I'd be shocked if, barring trades, I think he's definitely the best available at that 7-8 for the Nordiques. With Pete going 4 and then Serta and Shawnee are locked in. I'd be shocked if the Nordiques passed on him. A lot of speed, hockey IQ and hands still. I mean, compared to the other top players, kind of a notch below. I mean, still a great player. He's going to be a first-round pick, but I love Andy. Takes short shifts, but I don't think there's much drama as far as his draft position.
Yeah. And I the Seals, if he does get down to that pick, the concept's always, they're going to go for Cunningham. If he gets to the pick where they'd be able to take him, he's the whoop special. Take short shifts and pass the fucking puck. He's right up his alley.
Next guy on the list would be Judge, David Judge. I actually saw more out of him this time. He seemed like he was skating more. He was a little bit faster, taking it down the ice more. I know I was maybe a little bit lower on him than I think Troy was last week, but
yeah, I think
he showed me some more this week where, he put a little bit more into gear. And, I liked what I saw. I'd probably move him up about a round.
Yeah, I think this proves once again that I am a far superior talent evaluator to Piercy. I had him, pinned kind of in the second, maybe slip into the third round, and then I think Piercy and Hedges were like, fourth, fifth round. I'm like, you're fucking crazy. But I hope everyone thinks he's in the fourth or fifth round. I'd love to pick him up in the third.
Skillman knows him too well for him to get back to you in the third.
Exactly. I mean, if I'm going to get Judge, I'm going to have to, spend the second round pick on him, which I'm not exactly sure if I'd take him that high, but there's no chance with the Tigers having, 2 picks in the second and third of him being so if he's going to be a North Star, he's going to have to be a second round. I think might be a reach there, but he definitely has some offensive game. He's going to be a nice player.
Yeah, I think kind of what I think it was actually Whoop's evaluation a long time ago of when you say I'm going to bring in a guy like Judge, you see someone who you see the talent, and then sometimes you ask about like what the heart of the situation is. When the Admirals were getting punked quite a few times last year, he kind of like lets up or kind of starts experimenting with how he plays or something like that. Doesn't take it as seriously. And maybe you saw that in our first skate last week when we had a pretty wide spread of skill. But this week we had at least 4 or 5 first-rounders. We had like 6 second-rounders, at least 3 or 4 third-rounders. This skate was stacked. And I think eventually he clicked on the fact that there's a lot of good players out here tonight, and there's a lot of opportunity to try and prove myself. So eventually, I think the start of the skate was a little slow for him, and then he definitely picked it up to the point where he was carrying it up the puck and trying to make stuff happen. So he was working really, really hard, and I think that kind of proves what Whoop was saying. I think he's a guy who competes. He's a guy who plays hard. His heart kind of like might fall out when his team gets down, but he's got the talent to take a team to the top. If they got the momentum, he'll stick with them and he'll help drive it.
There's a really interesting, I look at this more than I should, but that kind of once you get to pick number, after the Nordiques make their 2 pick, well, actually, I think Andy Fem is a clear-cut number 7. Then when you get to the Deeks' second pick, which is number 8, all the way down to like when it comes back to this, the Seals in the 3rd round, there's a lot of players that I'm very curious to see how they all slot, because I can see a case for Judge, I can see a case for Starr, Peso, Rattler, Chris Taylor. I mean, it'll be Cunningham. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes, which is, we haven't had that much drama in the years past, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I like the idea of things kind of getting a little splayed out into like different groups, kind of packs. There's obviously the top 2 guys that we've been talking about going back and forth, and we're like, yeah, it's probably going to go, Sugar, Pistol, maybe it could change, but then it kind of gets to the point where it's like, man, there's about 8 guys here that I could see any GM taking, and like some GMs probably have their biases that they have in the past where they've said, hey, I've taken McCracken 3 years in a row, and then there's sometimes where they're going to be like, I've taken, Peso these couple of times, and I'm done with that attitude. Or I'm done with, McCracken not showing up, and I'm going to pick something different. So it'll be interesting as we kind of get to this maturity level of the league and where we start to get these packs developed to see how GM drafting strategy changes it.
And I think a big thing is we're talking about these second-round picks like a Cunningham, Chris Taylor. Well, Chris Taylor scores a little bit, but you get these high-level skill guys that don't really score a lot. And in our league, if you don't have scoring, like you need that first, second, really third round to be able to score. If you don't have that, you're in trouble. I mean, I think looking back at last year, the Seals, they had talent. Like other teams, everybody had talent. We couldn't put the puck in the net, and that's a big – you can't win if you don't score.
There is not a larger critic, hater, can't stand the guy, Peso, than me. I mean, selfish player, selfish teammate, but you know what? The fucker scores, and then I can't pull myself to take him in the second round, but then when I do these mocks and I see him falling to the Americans, because I think the Americans are high on him, and then that means that the Americans are sitting with Proctor, Matt Taylor, take your pick, Antioch, and Peso. They got 3 guys that can put the fucking puck in the net, and
they have the top goalie draft pick as well.
So I'm like, maybe I got to take Peso to block him. I don't know. So it's interesting.
Defensive drafting.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
And another thing is, I was impressed. Like, I think after last
season. Can I clarify how much I don't like Peso? Was I clear about that?
I think the whole league knows.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we know.
But yeah, I think there was a lot of shit put on the American GMs last year because of
horrible draft.
Just their draft.
Horrible.
I think the majority of people hated that trade they made to the Whalers as well, but Antioch didn't skate. But he was out scouting, so you got to give him credit for that.
Oh yeah, I think the Americans will have a bounce. I mean, they're set up to do well, and I think Antioch's now been in the league, enough that I expect them, to do well.
And let's just point out that they are
Antioch is a steal, at the end of the second round. I mean, because he is an absolute sniper.
I can't wait till we get to the Taylor part so I can talk about who's a fucking steal. Because me and Serta were stewing on the bench last night. I can't wait to get to it.
So, real quick, it appears during the show we had a voicemail. It looks like it's from Charles. Obviously, I haven't heard it. You guys haven't heard it, but let's take a chance and just play it.
Maybe. I don't want. We got a good flow going, so hopefully this doesn't derail us too much.
It is a Mackie, so we're probably in trouble.
All right.
Maybe a future Mackie.
Hi. Hi, this is Pookie.
Pookie!
First-time listener and first-time caller. I was just watching, and I heard Chad isn't playing because he thinks he's bad. But Sam and Charles still play, right? So what's that about?
Okay. First of all, a little disappointed. I've been told multiple times by Charles that I'm Pookie's #1 fan of the Otto brothers. So I'm a little disappointed that she'd leave a voicemail and not say hi to me. My ears perked up there. But yeah, the Maki brothers are terrible. Terrible hockey players, wonderful human beings. If they weren't so charming, they wouldn't be in the league. But Charles kind of brings the looks. Sam brings that kind of, weird, dry sense of humor, So anyways, we all love the Makis. But if it was based on skill, they would have been kicked out a long time ago.
And it sounds like she knows it, too. So that's true love right there.
I agree.
Yeah, I just also want to point out that there's no way that Pookie's going to call in and is going to be like, oh, I want to talk about Troy, when I'm right here. She's my little country girl, Priya Marie. I know you're out there. I know you're watching now. At no point is she ever going to be talking about you. She's going to talk about me. But to talk about Charles and Sam, they bring the culture to MNL. Chad is a person who, enjoys the culture of MNL and then gets upset when it focuses a little bit too much on him and could step away because of it. Chad leaving the league isn't because of skill. I think we said that ad nauseum earlier, and he's probably firing off in the chat about it right now. So Chad's got the skill. He's got the skill to get drafted way too high every single year and then get traded for better players. So it's a good strategy for GMs because they know that he has intrinsic value. He has those intangibles that nobody understands why he has them.
So back to the players. Matt Taylor, we saw him play today or yesterday. Thought he was fine, but the big thing for me was saw him play on Wednesday with his normal team, and he's not trying that hard on Mondays as of right now. Not to say that he won't, but to see him kick it in a higher gear in a game, I think it was a playoff game for them. As of right now, that swayed me for him being my #1 pick as of right now to see that full-on onslaught. Not to say that Proctor can't go out there, and if he's playing against a bunch of high D-League, low C-League, he's not going to kick it up higher and go harder. But I saw a lot more out of him, seeing him take the puck up, score, the way he really feeds people as well. It was just very impressive.
Yeah, I know Panty's got a lot to say here too, but here's my thing on Matt Taylor. First of all, last night, I walk in, and I'm like, look, those fucking skates that he's wearing. He's got these, he had Hale's fucking skates on, and I'm like, I walked in late. I wasn't there in the locker room, so I was like, God, if he wore these things last week, I feel like I would have noticed them. So I was taken aback. Then I'm like, is he just wearing these as like a gag? He thinks he's so fucking good he can just wear these fucking awful skates and still beat everybody. So I was a little relieved. I guess the true story is he forgot his skates, which that's an interesting one.
That's an intangible down the board.
Exactly. And then Hale just happened to have his beauties in the bag.
His 30-year-old beauties.
Yep. So I can't remember what those things are called. Mega skates, mag skates. I don't know what the hell they are.
Matt Taylor probably listened to the podcast last week and was like, if I can get drafted by the North Stars, new $1,000 skates are coming my way by OFP.
Who knows? But real quick on the man, I've only seen him skate 2 times, which are at these 2 drop-in skates. So it's weird because the legend of Matt Taylor, I've seen him skate twice. Very good player, no doubt about it. But again, if I'm just watching the skate, like Proctor is still the better player from what I've seen with my own eyes. I keep hearing about the legend of Matt Taylor on these other skates. So I don't know. And I've talked with another high-end GM who kind of echoed it. He's like, dude, it's Proctor. Proctor's a better player. He's more creative, blah, blah, blah. So it'll be interesting. Doesn't really matter for me. I'm just a spectator. I don't think you can go wrong. Like if the Americans take Proctor, it's not like, oh, you fucked up, or vice versa. So it'll just be interesting to see how it falls. I do want to say, too, I definitely think being on the same sheet of ice, like Piercy talks about Proctor motivation level being a little bit lazy. There is no doubt in my mind Proctor's a competitive motherfucker. Sometimes he's pretends he's chill, kind of laid back. But there's no doubt in my mind that if they pass on Proctor, the Tigers are going to get a energized Proctor out to prove the league to everybody that he's the man.
Oh God! And having those 2 on the same line those couple of times, they were eye fucking each other, like passing it back and forth. You take it, no, you take it, no, you take it. Man, just go in the bathroom already together.
It's shameless the way they flirt. I know. In terms of the difference between the two, I saw the same game that Piercy was talking about on Wednesday. Taylor was out for blood. That was a playoff game. He was playing as hard as he could, and that's a team where he does his best to try and take over as much as he can. And it showed 100%. He's scoring.
He almost looked like a Shawnee skater with like Proctor skill in that game. Like he had that power skating in him, and he had the hands and passing it around and the playmaking ability there.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We're all just spectators. I don't know if he's gonna, come out to another skate. Manny has not seen him skate. Antioch skated once with him and observed last night, so it'll be interesting. Like I said, doesn't really pertain to the North Stars, just a spectator like the rest, but it's going to be nice. I hope that they don't announce who they're taking, because for the first time we have real suspense at the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, because the North Stars shot their wad early season 1, and they're like, we're taking Pistol. And then turns out, we were able to make our decision, like, okay, we can take Sugar and just go on with our lives. And so we didn't even have that for the one time when nobody knew who Proctor was. In terms of watching Skillman yesterday play with Proctor and play with Taylor multiple times, and seeing how he played with Taylor last week, the fact that the Americans are getting Skillman in the 4th round is highway robbery. I was talking with Serta last night.
Did you say
on
the
bench.
Americans?
Sorry, I'm just used to him being on the Americans. The Tigers getting him in the 4th round is highway robbery. He is able to complete everything that's getting sent his way by those two. He's been able to pass and work with them. It's going to be extremely unfair when the time actually comes and, teams have to deal with the team that drafted. So both the Americans and the Tigers, I think, are going to be a challenge. The Tigers have the handicap of the goalie situation compared to what the Americans have, but it's still going to be a little brutal.
I agree. So that's all of our new players. Looks like we're getting close to an hour. I was planning on going through some players already in the league, but
Let's crank out about 3 and then go.
we'll go through the A's.
There you go.
So
Alphabetically.
first guy on the list, Adam Suokis.
I'd never draft the guy.
I'll start then. I'll give,
That was a joke, Kevin. Jeez.
I'll give a real
I was
answer.
expecting a punchline after that. I was expecting you to follow up.
The joke, I've drafted him 2 years in a row.
Quiet down. You've had your piece. We'll go back around
Drafting
to you.
Suokis 2 years in a row is a joke. Thank you.
So going into the spring, actually seeing him as a North Star playing defense, I actually thought he could kind of carry his own line as a defenseman. I think that's obviously with his size, his speed, everything. He needs to be a defenseman in a higher level league. He can still carry the puck. He's pretty good in like a low level league as a forward. He's fine there, but his true position's a defenseman. After seeing him and Ryan Allen together, I don't really know if he can carry a line with a lower end defenseman. He could be your top defenseman on a line if it's like an Adam and a Joey Brennan or an Adam and me. I think he could carry that line, but you kind of want him as either your 3 or you need that third guy to be very good. He can carry the puck, he can shoot, he has those skills, but I think his cardio is lacking. I think he gets hurt a lot, and I think he kind of has. People can get his head, I guess, is another good thing there, where someone hits him, he falls down, he starts yelling at the ref, he gets mad, he gets distracted, he kind of loses that concentration.
Yeah. No one knows Adam Suokis as a player, better than me. Strengths, weaknesses, everything. I feel like the North Stars, even though he, I can't tell. I thought he really kind of liked being a North Star. Turns out I'm not really sure. I think maybe he's just like hated it for 2 years. But he definitely grew as a North. Whether he hates me, loves me, he definitely grew as a player as a North Star, and I think I get like a pinch of credit for that. But strengths, he is a good on the puck defender. If you have a high end guy, Proctor, coming down, he has the ability to to hang with him. He can do that. Negatives, just this is a word you don't like to hear as a hockey player, but he can be a little soft. It's like he gets injured 57 times per game. During the season, there's a lot of like, oh, my knee's bothering, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it. Then I get a sub lined up, so there's definitely a little bit of that. He can skate with the puck at times and rush the puck, and it can be good. There are times where he gets kind of tunnel vision. Like, I can tell, like, okay, Sukas has made up his mind that he's going to rush the puck, and then he's going to fucking rush the puck, and then he doesn't, like, which is good. You want a guy to be aggressive, but then sometimes, you rush the puck, and then there's a guy open, hit him, but he's like, I'm going to the net, and boo, boo, boo. And he did score some big goals. I think he had a huge goal in the Stanley Keg. I don't know if it was in the finals or the semifinals, or maybe...
I think it was in the semis.
Yeah,
he had a great game in the semis.
Yeah, I mean, he had some huge goals for us. But he definitely can get some tunnel vision. He never goes D to D, which I find very frustrating. There's nothing I enjoy more as a defenseman than kind of slinging the puck around, go D to D, go out the other end. He never does that, which I find to be, frustrating. But I like Suokas. He was engaged, which is why I kind of thought we had a good relationship. But then I hear he's like, I don't want to be a North Star, blah, blah, blah. But engaged in the game plan. I would consult with him as a trusted kind of advisor on lines and stuff like that. So I feel like we see the game the same way. So he's going to go. I think he's moved up draft boards. Definitely going to be probably as high as a 6th round pick, but more likely probably a 7th round pick. He's not going to be your number 1 defenseman, but he can be your number 2. And if you get him as your 3rd defenseman, you're doing really well.
I wish I was taking notes during all of that, because every single time I was like, I want to say something to this. I'd say in the case of Adam's probably about like 5 years into his skating career. Started off in Michigan Tech and basically never ever league. Came to the K-Felks, played on the Nordiques, played on the North Stars, gotten a lot better 2 years in a row. I think every single year he's improving and he's doing better because of it. So he... I don't want to give you too much credit, but I think it's just been like he's playing hard and he's getting better as a player in general, with or without the teams that he's playing with. In terms of the teams that he's playing with and him enjoying playing on the North Stars, maybe, in my opinion, I don't get the vibe that he really likes the way that the organization is ran, but the second he gets drafted to a team, I think his heart's in it. I think he wants to win. After his teams lost in the finals, he was... visibly upset. He was not happy about it. He wasn't saying like fuck the North Stars. I didn't want them to win anyways. Like that's not he's not a self-sabotaging player like some fourth overall picks this year might be. So I'd say he's the kind of player that, kind of what you're saying, I don't disagree about the tunnel vision bit about it, but a lot of the guys who aren't necessarily like, a lot of players get that tunnel vision when you play from defense and you have a little bit of aggression in you. It's just, do you have the skills to back it up?
Yeah, I mean, he could be a North Star again. It's like, I'm going to do my best not, to kind of give him some freedom and not take him. Push. But if he's on the, but if he's obviously a player I like, I've drafted him 2 years in a row. So we'll see. I've done my kind of mock drafts. I think there's going to be a run on defensemen in kind of that middle range, and then like the edges and the not. By the way, just before we forget, I know we're only going to do the A's, but I just want all the GMs to know, Balasia injury. I spoke with him yesterday, and he's hoping to start skating in September. So best case scenario, he'll be ready week 1, kind of his first skate. So. I definitely think that's going to move him, down the draft board. It's not too much, but I just wanted everyone to kind of know that. But I think there's going to be a run on defensemen in the Turnbull, Sukas, Brennan, Balasia, Leroy, and I'm not saying those are going to get drafted all at the same time. Shepard is a defenseman or a forward, and so how that order goes will be interesting. I think everyone kind of has their own internal rankings and about those guys.
And I think you bring up a really good opportunity for us to kind of do just like an injury report in general of a lot of the players that we have in the league. A good example is Maff. Maff also had a pretty devastating injury. Maybe I want to say it was in early March.
It was like the week before.
Yeah. He is going to be playing for the K-Felks this summer. So he did a skate with us about a week ago and gave it his first time on the ice with a little bit of light contact hockey. And so he's going to take a chance, play a little bit of summer for the K-Felks. Obviously not as important and not as big of a deal as MNL. But, kind of stretch his wings back out and get out there. So he'll be probably pretty good to go come fall. And then kind of what we were just talking about, Suokas. Suokas has actually been dealing with a handful of lingering injuries that he's got going on. He's going to take summer off to try and heal up, so he'll be refreshed as well. So it's also good to hear that Blaze will be back, because his was a rough injury, and he's just kind of at that mark where is he going to be back in time or not. Justin probably looking at maybe about 8 weeks before he's able to start going towards skates again. So he'll be some time, but
he's gonna be close to be ready for the beginning of the season for Wright. I think he originally said 8 to 12 weeks from what I heard, and I think that 12 weeks puts him right at Labor Day. So that's if he's ready to go. Hopefully it'll be closer to the 8 weeks. He can get a couple skates in before the season starts.
I don't want to get sidetracked, but is Piercy paying for his physical therapy as the assailant?
he should be.
I think so.
It should be league mandatory.
If he was a gentleman.
Yeah.
Well, no one has ever called me a gentleman before. So
Very true.
next guy on the list, Alan Z.
Yeah. WBW. I like Alan Z. Piercy can attest, me, Pete, Alan Z were, tearing it up on Friday night for the Worms in the semifinals. I think everyone kind of knows Alan Z by now. He's a good forward. He's, if you can play him on your top line, he's probably going to get, lost in the sauce as a top line. But if he's on your second line, I think, you'd be, happy to have him. He can service on the top line, but the way most of the MNL teams are structured, you kind of have 2 top forwards and a bender, then 2 forwards and a bender. So if you have 2 other forwards with him and he's your third player on the top line, you're in good shape. But if you're counting on him to carry the bailiwick as a top line forward and then carry, like a Maki or a Wright or a Busta, he's not good enough for that in my opinion. But an effective forward. No one's ever done this before, but he could also, I know he might not like to do this, but I've seen him play D, and he's an effective defenseman. I think he's going to get drafted as a forward, but he can play D. So I like Alan Z. I think he's kind of in that late 4th, more likely kind of 5th rounder.
Yeah, Z, he's an interesting guy. Last year, I think preseason, he was lighting it up for the Seals. I thought he could be a breakout guy that year. Obviously, he works out. He's pretty strong. He's got kind of that power skating, almost like a Shawnee. I do think he has bad hands, though. He's got hands like me as far as stone hands. A lot of times giving him even a soft pass he'll struggle with.
They're not that bad, let's be honest.
Much better than yours.
Piercy like hands. How's
keep
that?
Going. Okay. Keep going.
But as far as his weakness, I think that's his biggest one is just his hands and the hand-eye coordination on passes. I'm the same way. I'm horrible with that. But, yeah, I think that's his big thing. I think if he's slowly improving on that. He got those new skates, I think, is helping his feet out. Like I said, you could tell he's got that power skating like Shawnee. Keeps that up. He can break out, just work on that stick handling and those hands. He's got a nice shot as well. He'll rip it in the top corner a lot. So
solid positioning. He's played wing a zillion times, so he plays his position well. It's like he's going to be in the right spot. He's reliable, dependable. I think as far as some guys, there's a varying opinion. I think there's not with Alan Z. I don't mean that in a bad way. I think you just kind of what you're going to get, and I think he's in this little wave of kind of, I'd say, the second tier forwards, which is
realistically, we were talking about earlier, the league needs goals, and he'll put in some goals kind of in that, like you said, 4th, 5th, 6th round. Sometimes that's hard to get out of there, so that maybe you're drafting the defensive guys or whatever. So that's nice to know. You're probably going to get a decent, probably one of the higher scoring guys in that round area.
Yeah, kind of a Joe. I mean, I think Z's a better skater than Joe Ellis, but to your point, Joe Ellis is a guy that you can draft in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, depending. I mean, I think he had a nice spring, so I think he's going to go. Joe Ellis is kind of, he's gone up, and he's a guy, some guys love him, some guys hate him. Alan Z is kind of consistent, but Joe Ellis is another guy that you can get later that will, when he does get his opportunities, his finishing percentage is pretty high.
Yeah, I'd say Z's that kind of guy who, like you said, what you're getting, and he's all about shooting. He was giving, I think it was last year's All-Star game, he was giving Ryan Z conniption fits. Not the All-Star game from this past season, but in the 2017-2018 season. Getting in there, getting shots. He's able to rip it past people when they're not expecting, and I think that's when he does his best. So if it's able to be a situation where he's on that second line, if you're able to do a true line 1, line 2, and he's on that line, he's going to cause a lot of troubles for it. If you're putting him in a situation where he has to be the worst guy on a, Proctor, Antioch line, let's say he goes to the Americans were to take Proctor, he's still going to cause some trouble. He's still going to get in there, but he has to be in the situation where he's going to sneak up on people and try and make it happen. He's not going to be the guy who's going to drive the play and make it all happen for them. So I'd say kind of what we're all saying. He's got good skating. He's got a good head on his shoulders too. So I think he's able to put stuff together. I'm not as high on him at defense as it sounds like Troy is. I think he is a forward through and through. I think he's a winger through and through. I've seen him at defense. He did a lot of defensive play on the Shamrocks last spring season, and I don't think it was the best utilization of him. I think he's a guy who, if you're going to draft him at defense, you're talking 7-8 compared to 5-6 or even 4.
Yeah, I can't see him as a defenseman. Like, with his speed, power, if you think he's got the defensive prowess, I would actually consider him at center before I would consider him at defense, because, you know, realistically that center is your third D. So you teach him to go that. I think overall we have crappy center defensemen. Like, they don't play their position very well. You got your Dave Pease, you know, he's one of those guys. Pete's actually pretty good back there. But there's a lot of guys who are way out of position. They're playing too high. They're not. You should have that triangle with your defenseman you're working at, but our guys just don't play in those positions, so it's rough sometimes.
I think a lot of the guys that we put at center in this league, a lot of them are still playing defensively sound. Over half of them. I think it's there's probably some that don't. I'm looking at like maybe a Sips. If I've ever seen a K Felks game, there's at least maybe once every 2 games when Dave Sips actually shows up that I give him a piece of my mind. So like, what are you doing, Dave? Like, I need you over here. But like, sometimes there's those centers who are thinking like they're ready to break out, they're ready to take some action, and like they do best when they're playing in the center role as a forward, but maybe not defensively. But I think in our league we have plenty of great players who are able to play defensively centers, and I'm thinking of, you know, Proctor. Not even mentioning the Dave P. and Pisley. You mentioned Proctor, Serta. We're talking about Matt Taylor's probably going to be in that same situation. I've seen plenty of good skating from plenty of people out there, and it's not just like Vape can do it. You know,
I agree more with Piercy on this than Panny. I mean, like the Proctors and the Petes, you know, and they kind of float around the blue line in the defensive, you know, looking for kind of that breakout cherry pick. And you know what? Then the risk reward component of it, it might be like, it definitely is not, you know, NHL proper style. But in Monday Night Lights, you know, it's like that's how you score goals. I mean, how many times has Proctor, you know, got in the puck at the blue line, chipped a pass to D-man and go on a breakaway? Same with Hardy and blah, blah, blah. So Serta, I think, and Shawnee and Dave P. are more guys that play proper. But even Dave P., I've had to, you know, I know Dave P.'s a loyal follower. I've had this discussion with him. Like, sometimes on face-offs, he's a center, and then he'll go chase the puck out to the point, and then if that shot gets through, then the defensemen are kind of outnumbered in front of the net. So, anyways, that's not what this is about. But
I also think one of the issues is our league, we're not quite high-skilled enough to do proper breakouts.
Correct.
So if we did better proper breakouts and, you know, we tossed it to that wing, that center would have a chance to jump up and get in that play faster. But because they're not, they're cheating up higher because they want to get in that play and kind of break it out. So that's that issue there. And that's kind of the reason, and, you know, you want your high-skill guys at center because they're all over the ice more, when realistically a lot of those guys, like sometimes Shawnee and those guys, they're really a true wing. They got that power. They got the speed. They should be going down that sideline there, but they're kind of forced based on how the teams are made to go into that center position.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to kind of break it down. I kind of see what you're saying a little bit more. Like, Shawnee is a guy who comes to mind. Fem's a kind of guy that comes to mind where they have enough skill, enough speed, enough skating prowess to be able to get in there and cause some troubles. But if I'm going to put it together a team for, like, say, that Brighton tournament that, like, all the first-rounders secretly go to and leave us benders at home, I'm not going to put Shawnee probably at center. I'll probably put someone who's going to be focused a little bit more on playing true center play and have him be a good wing to that guy.
The funny thing is we have our centers probably playing too high, and then we have our wings playing way too low as well.
Yeah,
so
because they got to compensate.
That's the trade-off.
But in any event, yeah, if you actually watch a proper breakout, you know, the D hits the wing, and then the center has been kind of looping and building up speed, and then the wing hits the center in the defensive zone, and then out you go. You know, but anyway, in any event, we don't need to delve too much into that.
So our last guy on the list today would be Andy Dragovich.
So Drago is, my buddy. He's an auto original into the league. He came in with Dave Venandi, and great guy, great looking. Ladies love him,
Especially when he has that mustache going on.
yeah,
He does that in November's usually.
But I will say, slightly disappointed when I brought him into the league. Kind of that first year, they were brand new, him and Venandi. And Drago was a good athlete. He played varsity soccer. So I kind of expected him to, by this point, this will be his. I'm trying to remember. Was he he was in the very first league?
Season 1.
So this is going into his fourth year in the league. If you would have told me 4 years ago, where is Andy Dragovich going to be in 4 years, I would have kind of expected him, to be in that, 5th, 6th, 7th round. And he hasn't. He's, again, great guy to have on the team, but he's still going to be drafted, I think, safely now. I think he's a 9th round pick. Is it possible that he's at the end of the 8th? Maybe. But he's kind of above the Maki Hale, but solidly in the 9th round. And you could do worse. I mean, for a 9th round pick, he kind of has a little bust out. He can elevate the puck in tight, and he will score some goals, but he's just kind of a ninth round guy. You could do worse in the 9th round, but he has not really, developed into the player that I thought he would become.
I think he's a really sneaky player, actually. I think 9th, it'd have to be early 9th for me. I think he's a guy that when you put a good team around him, he's able to make a lot of difference for him. I think he's that guy that you don't pay attention to when you're playing on the ice. He's a Neville, he's a Ryan Allen, he's kind of down there, so I just don't have to worry about him because we just kind of assume that at a certain level you just don't have to guard people, and then he's the kind of guy who sneaks up and gets you for that. If you had asked me at the start of our league where Venandi and where Drago would be, like, at this point in time of their careers, like, I assume, like, two guys who just get thrown into our league and just kind of got thrown in by their friend, I expect them to almost be out of the league, just be like, yeah, this is cool, thanks, I'm just going to go back to playing golf or doing this or something like that. So I think they actually do very well considering that they're relatively new to the league, and this is relatively new to the sport, and this is pretty much the only league that they're playing in.
I love Andy and Dave, two of my best friends. I should say best. That's two of my favorites in the league.
It's because I'm his best friend.
Yeah, but and I'm just being, again, honest evaluation because I had high expectations for him. I really thought that Andy would be better, but yeah, he's a if you get him in the 9th round, he's one of the better, 9th rounders. It's like if you throw him a pass, he can usually catch it. He has some ability to finish, but he's just not, his skating is what it is, kind of a lower end skater.
Yeah, Drago is one of those guys to me I don't see him on the ice a lot. I've never actually played on a team with him, so I don't feel like I've ever really gotten to know him very well. And I don't think he's a guy who really hangs out afterwards either. So it's always hard for me to, I actually think when I was doing my initial rankings, I had to go on Facebook, and I had him and Venandi mixed up of who they both were.
Yeah, they hang out. I mean, he's been known to have a Victory's cigarette. Him and not all the time. Sometimes he darts out of there, but he'll hang out.
He kind of hangs out in the Troy circle that a lot of people kind of avoid until eventually, other people leave, and maybe they leave, and then Troy starts power rankings talks, and it comes over your way.
And weren't they Americans last year or 2 years ago, the last couple of years, and I don't think they've had names on their back as well, and I think that's made it harder to realize who they are. And there's just times when there's
Venandi's had it 2 years, because Venandi's been a North Star, which had him, a Seal, which didn't, and then a Duck, which has.
Yeah.
And then
I don't think they've ever been other than the first year when I drafted them together. I don't think they've been on the same team.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough just sometimes when you see people, even if they do have their names on the back, when you always see them with a helmet on, it gets to be tough to realize who's who.
I don't know, Piercy. I mean, Venandi has the distinctive blue matte helmet, so I think you're just wrong on this one, Piercy.
You're just not trying.
Yeah, but
I mean, I'm not perfect. Maybe I'm close, but I'm not perfect.
Circling back to Venandi as a skater, I don't know what Drago as a skater. I don't know what Drago's ceiling is, but I know we haven't seen it. I think maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, or maybe he's going to continue to improve or something like that. But I'm not saying you didn't say that, but I think that there is a point where I think he could hit that 5-6, and I think it will happen. I just don't know when. I just think it's going to be him being on the right team.
And I've been harsh on my friend, so I do want to give him some credit, okay? And this is also a lesson as a grizzled veteran who's turning 40 this year and someone who has 4 kids, okay? I give credit to Drago. He has 2 children, very young, I think 2 under the age of 3. So the fact that he still comes out is admirable. We've had some guys like Brandt. I love Brandt. I can't believe that you have 1 kid and you quit, what you love. So any of you, I know we have some young guys, when you get married, when you have a kid, you got to have one night, And I hope Brandt has that one night. Maybe he just doesn't have the passion for Monday Night Lights, so he's doing something else.
Are you listening, Chad?
But you can't give up your night. Because once you give it up, you'll never give it back. I know Hale's mentioned that before. So when I'm sitting here thinking, I've been a little tough on Drago, but he does have 2 young kids, so he probably doesn't have the time to do that like second and third skate of the week. So maybe when the kids get to that, 5, 6, 7, he'll have a little bit more time, and maybe that's when we'll see the jump.
Nothing beats the time when we had a Saturday morning drop-in, and he told the wife he was going out for bagels and went to go get bagels and instead actually ended up playing hockey with us and came back without the bagels, I think. You might want to check with him on the true story, but the locker room.
That's something that only Troy Otto would pull off. I've done that multiple times in my marriage where I'm like, honey, I'm running out. And then I head to the rink or somewhere else and come back 2 years later.
I was in line for hours trying to get bagels, and then they just said they were out of water, so I couldn't deliver them.
All the way home, and I forgot the cream cheese, and I had to turn around. I'm so sorry, baby.
So a few things on the podcast. If Spotify, Apple, anything like that, make sure if there's any reviews or rate, review the podcast, helps get that out there. Drager, first time on the show.
Hedis might have lost his job.
No.
I don't know.
What'd you think?
Of myself or everything?
The experience.
The operation that Piercy has going on here is creepy, where there's basically 3 cameras in the room, all pointing in different directions, watching us at all times. But in spite of that, it's a very professional setup.
People pay a lot of money for live cam shows.
Oh. I don't want to sit in this chair anymore. So, but I think the banter was fun. The conversations went quick. I'm surprised that it ended up actually being an hour and a half, especially considering Hedis like, oh, bro, why do you even have it? Like, just cancel it. Nobody's gonna. What do you want to talk about Matt Taylor for 4 hours?
I know that was very lame. I was very disappointed in Hedis bailing. I would like to pat myself on the back. There were multiple times during the show I wanted to say, oh, we got to wrap this up, but I didn't. So we'll see. We went really fucking long. We went about an hour and a half. So if people think we went too long, let us know.
And realistically, the draft is the 15th. There's not that much time left. Like Hedis, great. He's kind of the number one guy. Started it with here. He's always invited. I try to get as many people out there. We actually have a phone line that works now too, so that could be an additional person as well. But anybody who's interested, I threw it out in the social room about filling in today. No one really responded. Dave P did real quick, but he couldn't make it out. But, it's always nice to mix it up, get more people out here. Even with someone like Hedis, it's not that he's ditching. People have lives. Just because I'm a loser doesn't mean other people don't have lives and can't always make it. And it's nice if we want to try to get consistency going. We might not be able to have the same crew every week. So if you're interested, let us know. We still have B through whoever the last person in the alphabet actually goes to. I'd like to try to do one of these for everybody and possibly do a mock draft all before the actual draft happens. So
I think
that could mean possibly 1 or 2 guys coming in on a Saturday, pouncing out 2 hours or 3 hours going through another half of the draft people, even recording them live on and then releasing them later could be something of value.
Yeah. I do think next week we should probably, less. If there's news, we're duty bound to report the news, but maybe jump into the player evaluations, and hopefully we'll have some of these new guys. I'm very anxious to see this Phillips character. I've never seen him skate, and he's someone that he could kind of affect my draft board. There's not that many guys that are going to affect my draft board. Phillips is one of them. My buddy Reve, I've never seen him skate outside of just jumping on the ice for my son's practice. He is a large man. I mean, he's kind of in the Skillman. He might even be bigger than Skillman, and he's a big dude, and he's not like a fat dude. He's just a big dude. So I'm very curious to see what that looks like. I could see him being as high as a second to third rounder, or as low as a fifth or sixth. So that's Phillips and Rivet are the two that I really want to see skate.
And how's the draft, or how's the actual schedule looking to get these new skaters out there?
So right now we've had about, I want to say, 7 of the new skaters skate. I think, there's been a handful of times where, we've had AJ say, like, oh, I can come skate. I'm like, most of the guys kind of know AJ.
AJ is someone we know, though.
Correct.
So
Same
him, a
with Andy.
Pecora, a Krunk.
Pecora is interesting because we've never had a situation where Antioch or Skillman have seen Pecora skate. So we actually probably want to get him out there so they have a good idea. Luckily, it's not as urgent because their co-GMs have seen him, so they have a good idea.
He's Proctor with a lot less skill.
And speed.
Yeah. Proctor minus,
We're talking about Cherry Pecora, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Take Proctor's all Proctor's ratings, divide them by, times them by 0.2, and you'll get his ratings.
Weaver is the comparison. Likes to float around the red line.
Yeah, we spent 15 minutes talking about Alan Z, dissecting the man like he's one of those cow diagrams with the dotted lines on it, and we're gonna just wrap up Pecora and be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Pecora is basically Proctor, but slow.
Second or third round.
What the hell are you talking about?
That just means that he likes to cherry pick and he doesn't like to play defense.
All right, we got to wrap this baby up. I am saying it now.
Yeah, I'm not going to reply to that because then we won't.
I got to get home.
Oh, okay.
Hit the music.
So
the royalty-free music, please.
I don't know.